What's up, familia? Welcome inside the pad. Hope you guys are doing good. Keep in between the lines. Got your load secure. And yes, we are here to talk about abortion. Man, a very touchy subject. But it's only touchy, man, because people make it touchy. But let's go ahead and let's bring in my co-host, mi hermana from Salinas, California. You guys can find her on Convicted Hearts. I'm talking about one, Miss Jen Magana.
Hey, what's good, Cholo? What's up, guys? Good to see everyone. How
What's
are
going
you?
on, sister?
Not a whole lot. Glad to be here. A little nervous, but I'm glad to be here. You like to keep you like to keep me on pins and needles. I'll say that.
Yeah. I do want to have quite a few discussions about the things that people think that are a little controversial, and it's only touchy and sensitive and controversial because people make it that way. They don't have to be.
That's true.
So yeah. So with that, let me go ahead and say what's up to Lord Spike, Chicano Ideas, my boy Root Beer. What's going on, Andres? Derek, what's going on? What's going on? What is going on, everybody, man? All right. Well, we're just gonna bloviate just for about another minute or two, see if some more people come jumping in. And if you guys are not watching this live, you might want to hit minute number 5 before we get into the topic at hand. But with that, Jen, um, when did you first hear about abortion?
I probably first heard about abortion around, I would say like 12, 13. And
Mm,
it wasn't like it was an openly discussed thing in my family home. I heard about it because of a convention that my church was going to.
mm,
And I did go to that convention, and it was pretty traumatizing. It
okay.
really kind of walked people through the different stages um, of fetus growing a baby, and it like gave physical examples, like little, baby size dolls and things like that at different stages. And it went into detail, like each booth had it was pretty graphic, went into detail about how these things are performed and done. So it was pretty jarring as a young uh, teenager to see that.
Okay. And was this on purpose? Did somebody purposefully want you to see this, or a group that you're with?
Yeah, I don't know how or who brought it to the church's attention, but it was sort of like I mean, I guess what it would be called now is something to do with pro-life, of course. It was wanting us to see really the different stages of pregnancy and the different things, like each stage of pregnancy. Okay, your baby's heart is beating now. Your baby
Mm,
can make a crying face. Your baby can suck their thumb. Your baby can feel pain. So, yeah, it was definitely something they wanted us to see. And it wasn't done like in a way like to freak you out, although it did. Hey, Salvador, it did kind of, freak me out to see that so young, because I was pretty sheltered when it came to those topics, other than all of a sudden going to this thing and seeing all of this. Like, those things weren't talked about at home.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we passed the 5 minute mark, now let's go ahead and actually get into the conversation of abortion. One thing that really trips me out is when people, you turn on the television or even on YouTube or any social media platform, and you hear people say things before they have a conversation. They say, let's have an honest, real conversation. And then you listen to the conversation. It's like, okay, you're not being honest. You're playing some political role. I want to go ahead and first start with, I don't care about your political views. We are not here to talk abortion based on a political side. I don't care. If you're left, you're left. If you're right, you're right. For the love of God, I do not care. We're here to talk abortion. The fact that everything gets politicized now, I don't want to hear about politicians, nothing. Let's talk abortion. That is it. Just abortion. Not who you vote for, none of that. Just abortion. Okay. So, with that, Jen, oh, well, I'll go ahead and tell you guys. When I first heard about abortion, yeah, I think I was probably a little, maybe before teenage years. I think I heard, oh, you know what? That person got an abortion. And I didn't know what they were talking about. And they're just like, oh, they took the baby out. And I didn't really know, but it was the first time I heard the term abortion. Not to, my mind was just like, oh, they took the baby out. Like, I don't know, but it wasn't later prior to like early teens that I started realizing like, oh, okay, I get it now. It's a whole medical procedure and stuff, things of that nature. But so let's go with abortion. Jen, how did abortion first come to be? I mean, this had to start somewhere. The term abortion, the idea of abortion. What can you tell us with abortion?
Well, from what I've been able to look up and see, abortions were being performed sort of in, what would be referred to as back alley abortions or at home abortions as early on record as the late 1880s.
Okay.
They were technically like on paper being performed by Planned Parenthood started. It was October 16th, 1916. And that was started by Margaret Singer. And that's sort of when it really began being displayed as a form of birth control or a medical procedure that was an option to women at that point.
Okay, so to make it clear, so from the late 1800s, at least that what we can find, people
That's
were
right.
doing it at home.
Yeah, there was people who were finding ways to do it at home.
Mm,
There were advertisements as early as some of the like late Victorian type papers that would advertise in the local papers in England even and advertise it as sort of medications that are here to help you get your regular cycle back, which was sort of a way to say we can help you get rid of your pregnancy without really putting it out there in those words. So there would be like a
mm,
number for women to call or an address for them to go to.
okay, okay, and then Planned Parenthood came around in the 1960s, and then this became a thing.
Well, in 1916,
Oh,
actually,
1916.
yeah,
Okay.
the first Planned Parenthood was started, and I believe it was in Brownsville, New York.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, okay, and man, so from then, I mean, I don't know how easy or how uneasy it was to get an abortion back then compared to today.
Mhm.
But man, so this has been going on for quite a minute already.
Yeah.
Um,
It's been
I know
going
a
on
lot.
a long time.
That what now?
It's been going on a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of surprised me the way it looked like it was sort of advertised or put out there early on.
Mhm.
This lady, Margaret Singer, she was really like a gun ho for, hey, if you don't want to be pregnant, don't be pregnant. And she really pushed it like it was just a very common everyday option. It didn't seem like she didn't put a whole lot of heaviness into the thought of it. I mean, I guess that's my own opinion, but
And this is in 1916.
let me double check that because I have two dates written down here. But yeah, October 16th, 1916.
Okay, okay, that this chick was around with Planned Parenthood pushing out these abortions. Like, hey, you know what? This is an option for
Yeah,
ladies that don't want to be pregnant. Okay,
yeah. So
wow. That's a little surprising because when you think of 1916, you don't really think of women really having a strong voice and putting themselves out there and saying things like this, especially especially back then, you think of a lot of people in suits and dressed up a little bit more and
Mhm.
fearing God more and things of that nature. So, yeah, man, there you go. I wouldn't have guessed that
Yeah, and
that
just
would have been happening
double checked, and yeah, 1916. So Planned Parenthood was
before.
founded October 16th of that year.
Over 100 years ago. Right on, man. Okay. Well, now that we got that little history lesson out of the way, before we actually get into the talks of abortion, and we will be dropping the link to see if anybody wants to jump on and give their thoughts and opinions and beliefs on it. Listen, the arguments of the, here's the thing: when I hear the sides argue with one another, right? It's one is a woman's right to choose, and the other one is pro-life.
Mhm.
They modify the words and everything. They come up with their own sayings to make it seem like, hey, my side is the right side. We're not talking about abortion. We're talking about pro-life. We're not talking about abortion. We're talking about a woman's right to choose. And it's just so fatiguing, man. I'm just like, son of a gun. No, we're talking about abortion. So, okay, Jen, um, now that we're at the stage where we're at, so that was back in 1916 and all these years, here we are so many years later, still a huge issue. Um, let me hear your beliefs in it, but then let me also hear your thoughts without your beliefs and whether it should or should not be a thing.
Okay. So, I mean, that's where I always, have to put it out there and say, like, this is my own opinion and, or my belief. I won't even say my opinion. Um, I, I do believe there are medical situations where this is probably necessary. I don't feel I could ever be in a position to make those decisions for someone else. It makes me uneasy. I personally, I don't feel that I could ever choose to have an abortion. And that's for, obviously my religious beliefs, as well as, after reading about and seeing how graphic and how, um, I don't know, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but it's just a brutal thing to see what's really done. And I don't feel like I would be able to live with myself if I chose to do that. This is something that I was faced with having to make a choice like this when I was a teenager, and I didn't I didn't choose to have an abortion. I kept my pregnancy and had my child, and I'm glad I did. I know that I have several friends that have had abortions, and it doesn't affect our friendship. I don't look at them any differently than myself. As a matter of fact, they have been very open with me about how that affected them and their mental health and everything after doing so. I know there are some things, medical conditions that women, it's like mom's life or baby's life, and things have to be, you know, done. But other than that, I don't feel I could do it uh, personally.
Okay. Okay. Do you think abortion should be allowed?
Mm.
Do you think it should be outlawed, that it should not be an option?
See, here's where I come up with I struggle with that because there's where I have to separate my faith beliefs from real life situations that happen. And I don't, it's hard for me to know how to do that. People always say, well, if they find out or feel, you don't believe in abortion or you don't feel you agree with it, they're going to say, well, what about if there's a 10-year-old that's, assaulted? And
Mm,
that's where I just, my God, I cannot imagine that child having to follow through with that pregnancy after something terrible happening. So I would just, if I had, I think it's medically necessary in certain situations. I just,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Um, well, me myself personally, I don't that's fine that abortion's out there. For me, I don't really care too much.
Mhm.
Um, I do think it does form a certain type of society that's going to go down the wrong path when you start forming it as a form of birth control or as a form of, hey, you know what? If you get pregnant, don't worry about it. You could get an abortion anytime. Once things like that start happening, you start forming this kind of society where it's like, yeah, that's not really gonna be healthy going down the line. Uh, in many ways, if it's there, if it's an option, if it's available, especially for medical conditions, for medical reasons, especially for whether it's the child or the mother, or in situations where somebody was assaulted and raped and things of that nature, then yeah, I don't mind that it's there, but the fact that now today it's taken with like I said, a form of birth control, it's like, huh, okay, that's a little bit risky. You're kind of pushing this society out there.
Mhm.
um and I'm not sure you're really gonna like what you get back from it. So as far as for me
Mhm.
for me as far as whether it should be legal or illegal, okay? Um, Again, I don't really care too much, but if it's gonna be, see, here's the thing: when I hear people argue about this, right? They bring up different scenarios, which I want to get into now before I speak on them. But Jen, how many abortions take place due to medical issues or rapes, assaults, as opposed to a woman just not wanting to have, got pregnant and not wanting to have a child?
That information was a little bit sketchy to
Mm.
find. And when I did look it up, it showed something like 300,000 were done due to medical and rape type situations. And that's
Mm.
300,000 out of 670 million.
Wow. Okay.
So the percentage was, when you look at it, it's pretty small actually, compared to, not that 300,000 abortions is small, but in comparison to how many abortions are done, um, the percentage was
Yeah,
much smaller.
right. The amount is large, but the percentage is
Hmm.
small. So
Right.
that's yeah. Look, I wouldn't really have much of an issue if they say, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna outlaw abortion. We're only," because I hear the arguments. It's like,
Hmm.
"Hey, whoa, wait a second. What about those that are raped? What about
Hmm.
women that is to save their lives? Like, just let them die?" Well, look, if you're gonna go down that route, how about you just make it legal for those victims that were assaulted, raped, impregnated that way, or for those women where it's like, hey, either the woman or the baby, medical issue, or showing that, hey, the child's going to be born with a certain, medical defect. What if we just have it with that, and it's not a form of birth control? It's not a form of like, hey, you know what? You just got pregnant. There's nothing wrong with the child. There's nothing wrong with you. You weren't
Right.
raped. So for you, abortion's not an option. We're only focusing on abortion when it comes to rape victims
Mhm.
or if there's something medically wrong. What do you think about that, Jen?
I think that, I think that's a fair way to go about looking at it, and again, I know that's in my opinion, but I think that's fair. It's, to me, in my eyes, my beliefs, abortion is not a form of birth control.
Mhm.
You, and I say this, respectfully, but you have to unalive something, a fetus, in order to get rid of the pregnancy. So it's not, you're not preventing pregnancy, you're ending it. There's many different ways, different birth controls, so many different types. There's many ways around, becoming pregnant. I don't know why. I mean, I feel like I know several situations where certain people that I have had friendships with, the ones who have had abortions,
Mm.
I love them dearly, have had multiple abortions.
Okay.
It wasn't just like, oh my gosh, devastated, I had to do this. No, it's three, four, five, six. That's at that point, you know how this happens and you know how to prevent it.
Okay. Okay. Vasectomy should be free for men if they choose that wildlife. Look, I got a vasectomy when I was 25 years old, and boy, I'm telling you guys, man, it was hard to get because they really try to talk you out of it. I'm not talking about friends and family. I'm talking about them, the hospital. They really try to talk you out of getting a vasectomy. I'll tell you guys, when I went to go do it, um, they kept on saying, "Hey, what if you meet somebody else?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Okay, what if I meet somebody else?" And they're like, "Well, what if she wants to have a kid?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not gonna stop her. Go have a kid." And they're like, "No, she wants to have it with you." I'm like, "Nah, I'm done having kids. It's just not happening. I'm not having kids." Okay, Jen, what about this thing about like, hey, you know what? Look, you can't make a woman have a kid if she does not want to have a kid. What about that argument, Jen? Where do you start? Where do you stand with that argument? And while we're on that argument, what about the argument of my body, my choice?
Okay, so if you can't make a woman have a kid, or you mean like if somebody that's already pregnant and she's saying,
Yes. Yeah,
okay,
she's pregnant, and she wants to have an abortion, but it's like, oh, the option's not there. And it's like, oh, the argument of my body, my choice, and
mhm.
also why make a woman become a mother if she doesn't want to be.
Well, I mean, speaking for myself as a woman, I'm, other than things that are out of my control, I am responsible for what happens to my body. And if I don't
Mhm.
want to be pregnant, then I'll make sure that doesn't happen. You know,
Oh, wow. Okay.
so it's your choice what you put out there and who you put it out there for. So either make
Mhm.
sure you're protected. Obviously other things happen like rape, things like that. I'm not saying that part, but be responsible. I mean,
Mhm.
I just feel like there's a lot of people out there that just use this topic, this whole issue of abortion as an option. I feel like it's an option of birth control. It's so frustrating to me. And
Mm.
it's not birth control. It's
Okay. I- I'll throw it out there what I think of that. The whole body, my choice, and also making a woman have the kid when she doesn't want to have a kid. Okay, first of all, the whole thing, nobody's making you have a kid. You went
mhm,
and got pregnant. Okay, we're
mhm,
not talking about rape. We're not talking about anything like that. You went and you got pregnant. Okay, so
mhm.
nobody's making you have a kid. The my body, my choice thing. Okay, cool. That thing right there. All right. Yeah, look, I have my body and my choice what to do with it. However, this is a medical procedure. Okay, this is a medical procedure. This is my body. If I say, listen, I don't want to have an arm, I want to surgically remove it. You can't do that.
Mhm.
Okay, legally, you can't do that. You can't go and say, hey, remove my left arm. It's like, well, what's wrong with your left arm? Nothing, but I don't want it. And it's my body, it's my choice. I don't want my left arm. No, you can't legally do that. And the argument of, well, it's my body, it's my choice. Who are you to say that I should have a left arm when I'm clearly saying I don't want my left arm? Get
Mhm.
rid of it. Well, no, it's against the law. A doctor just can't say, hey, we're taking this guy's arm off because he just decides he doesn't want it.
Right.
That's not the way it works. That's why I am more leaning on the side of, hey, you know what? Listen, if the person was raped, if there's some medical issue going on, that it's much safer to have an abortion, then fine, I'm cool with it. But the fact that you just say get pregnant and now now you don't want the child, that's I don't know, that's on another level now. That is definitely on another level. But with that, I think, Jen, it all really revolves to one thing and one thing only. And
Mhm.
that is what we as society have turned sex into. We
Yeah.
talk about sex like it's just a fun activity to do, and not saying that it's not,
Mhm.
but we've turned sex into like, hey, go out, get laid, have fun, live your life, do what it is that you want to do. We probably need to reconstruct as a society, as people, as human beings, that no, it's not, sex is not just to be thrown out there and, hey, you see somebody you're attracted to, go have at it. The next day
Mhm.
you see somebody else you're attracted to, have at it, and so on and so on and so forth, because that's where this is all leading to.
Yeah.
This is actually the real root of the problem here. Where the way everybody thinks about sex, where it's just like, oh, you think of it just almost like you're gonna watch sports. Like, yeah, I'm gonna watch sports because I'm entertained. I'm fun. So it's fun. So I'm gonna go have sex because it's entertaining. It's fun. And just with any chick, any broad. And that leads even to bigger issues with broken homes, broken families. I know. I was part of it myself. So I think it all goes back to the way we look at sex. What's your thoughts, Jen?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. It's so there's like no like value to sex anymore to people. It's just a transactional thing. It's not even something people really look forward to or anticipate, or there's no build up to those moments. It's like, yeah, yeah, I'll probably go do this one tomorrow, this one the next day. There's no shame in it. Like that trips me out when I have these conversations, and it's like, oh yeah, I got with this dude, yeah, he's whatever, but tomorrow I'm gonna go out with so and so, and I'm gonna do whatever with him, and it just not. I'm not saying I'm like goody two shoes, whatever. Yeah, do your thing, but the way that it's so easily spoken about, like, it's no big deal. It's normalized to be that way. I mean, there's a rap video. I can't forget the because I don't listen to this music, but it caught my attention when I was watching some videos to get information. There's a rap video with a female artist, and she's outside of an abortion clinic, and the rap song is basically how I'm about to go get rid of this baby. I'm not
Mm,
going to be nobody's baby mama.
mm.
And I mean, just girls dancing and going wild in this video outside of a abortion clinic. And I mean, it's being presented to our youth like it's no big deal. I mean, you can rap about it, you can laugh about it, it, there's no value behind sex. There's no value behind the person who you have it with. It's just transactional. It's like people have become numb to that whole topic.
Right. Well, I think it's out there. It's like, oh, you know what? Everybody wants to have their fun. Okay, if you stop looking at sex like that, a lot of these won't be issues. Not just abortion, but broken homes and fatherless homes and things of that nature. the way you reconstruct and everything. And it all starts at home. It all starts with your kids. It all starts. Look, I have a niece, right?
Mhm.
And instead of woman empowerment, of hey, go look at this rap video where if you want to have an abortion, it's your body, your choice. I would rather much more teach her of, hey, listen, your body, your choice. Sex, treat it with what it's supposed to be. You
Mhm.
know, not this go out there laying with all these other dudes,
Right.
right? Getting impregnated, but some way, somehow you're empowered because you can go and have an abortion now. Like, no, no. Think about yourself before
Mhm.
that. And not just with that, but with fellas too. With fellas too. I remember growing up, and look, it was cool, man. It was cool. It made you cool. The more hyenas you were able to smash on, the cooler of a dude you were. It was,
Mhm.
Looking back at it now, I see the problems that it really brought, and how numb it does make it to everybody, because now you have sex with somebody and you don't have that special connection to them, right?
Mhm.
And the way society just is today is just like, hey, everybody wants to have fun, homie. This Let's not treat sex like that,
Right.
okay? Going back and treating sex for what it is, man, with that special person. I get it. I understand, man. It's like, oh man, what are we, some goody two shoe people? I completely understand that, but I think we've completely jumped the shark on how we treat sex, which is why now abortion is where it's at today. And not only that, just switching it back here all the way back to abortion.
Mhm.
I now truly believe that people don't even feel strong about abortion, whether it's whether you're for abortion, whether you're anti-abortion. I truly believe now you're more focused on anger and hatred towards the ones that don't believe the way you believe. So when you're for abortion, right,
Mhm.
or you're anti-abortion, I'm not even really sure how strong you believe in those values, as opposed to I get off and making these people pissed off over here. Like, yeah, I want to just, throw it in their face.
Mhm.
That's what I see more than anything, Jen, as opposed to really, actually, truly caring about the situation. And what we're talking about here is abortion. So, the situation being abortion, I actually see more of I'm just trying to really stick it to that other
Yeah.
side, and I'm using abortion to do it.
Yeah. It's another one of those, if I dare say, movements where what I pick up on a lot of as well, the whole my body, my choice. To
Mhm.
me, what I notice is that's really targeted against men. Like we're
Right.
angry that these men are telling us what to do with our bodies. That's
Mhm.
how I see that phrase presented. So it's really like drawing a line, between the whole men and women, coming together and making decisions. Um, Interestingly enough, it's kind of crazy. I just thought, let me see what comes up when I had went on YouTube and I just entered what is Planned Parenthood. The very first video that pops up I wasn't sure at first if this was a man or a woman.
Mhm.
And they're sitting there, sitting upright in a chair, and then they start speaking. And she says, I was raped and I was able to come here and get my abortion at Planned Parenthood. And now they're giving me my gender confirming hormones to help me become a man. And I was like,
Mm.
what in the, how did that go from I was raped to now you can even come here to help continue your journey to get a sex change or to become whatever identity you feel you are. So they're actually paying for those services as well. And
Mm.
they're being reimbursed by the government for those type of services that they're giving people.
Wow. Well, see, I see Wes Carson. What's up, Wes Carson? Keep it between the lines, big dog. Saying that he is pro-choice.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the kind of stuff that I am against, man. The thing when they start rewording things, when it's like a woman's right to choose,
Mm-hmm.
pro-choice, pro-life, pro no, just say abortion.
Yeah.
Just abortion. Because now and I just dropped the link in case anybody wants to jump on and give their thoughts, give their opinions on it, because now whether you're again you got the people that argue about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the women's right to choose or the pro-choice and the pro-life, and it's okay, what's with these words? Why are you wording it this way?
Yeah.
It's abortion. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you either for abortion or anti-abortion. Because once you say you're pro-choice, so then the other people are anti-choice. Just abortion. Just
Mm-hmm.
say abortion. Like these words that people want to manipulate out there and say like, oh, you know what? These people want to take away women's right, and then the other one saying like, oh, you know what? These people don't want people to live. They're anti-life. Like, no, just say abortion.
Yeah.
We're talking about abortion. It's when people start, making all these good phrases up there, man, to
Mm-hmm.
really back up what they want to do. And like I said earlier, I'm not even sure how really into it they really are.
Mm-hmm.
I almost kind of see it that they just want to stick it to people that are against what they believe. So
Yeah,
if
I
you
think
really don't know people, doctors do with the baby bodies. Huh.
I have heard a lot of nightmare stories, and that is definitely something that I wonder about as well. Um,
Okay.
there was a whole video about that as well, where there was a lady that ran into some delivery guy in New York City, and he drunken chef, and he had containers, that said they were like refrigerated containers, and the lady asked him what was inside, and he told her that it was the babies that were disposed of from Planned Parenthood. And she's like,
Uh,
"Where are you taking them?" And
mhm.
he's just like, "I can't tell you that."
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I was gonna say something, but I'll save it for just a little bit later. I don't want to get to that yet.
Okay.
But as far as abortion, what you were saying, Jen, okay,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like my body, my choice. Um, yeah, I do feel, or I do believe, just the way I see it, that it's kind of more of angry at men.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of, hey, I want to show these guys, or, all women should believe this, all women should, believe that. Um, how is it? Or when they say, hey, politicians, no man should tell a woman what to do with her body. Well, a few things. One, this is a medical procedure, right? A man's
Mm-hmm.
not telling a woman what to do with her body. This is a medical procedure.
Right.
That's one thing. If we could clear that up, a man's not. Second of all, what about the women? Some that are in politics that are against abortion. Um, I knew this one girl who she voted, and she does not follow politics. She does not do anything. She voted a certain way for one reason and one reason only, and that is because she is against abortion. What about those ladies? Whenever anything is talked about like this, it's always against the man. It's always against the male. It's always against the guys and the what about the deadbeat dads that don't stick around? What about male politicians? They shouldn't have a right to tell a woman what to do. Again, Nobody's telling a woman what to do. It's a medical procedure.
Right.
It is a medical procedure. And the deadbeat dads goes back to what we're talking about just a little bit earlier on how we look at sex.
Hmm.
And on top of that, I knew someone that actually wanted to have a baby, but she didn't want it, and she got it aborted.
Hmm.
And he was pretty damn heartbroken, and it ended their relationship. And hey, Rudy, I saw you on here, brother, but your device isn't connected, so I'm not sure what you got to do on your end, big dog. But if you want to jump on here, be glad to have you on, or if anybody else wants to jump on here.
Yeah.
um
That's
Go
something
ahead.
I had wondered about as well. Um, I've seen a couple situations where there was the female did not want the baby and terminated it, and the guy was heartbroken, and I was like, wow,
Mm,
he had no say at all,
mm,
like none. She Neither one of these ladies, they weren't hearing it. And okay, I get it. She said, it's in my body, I have to carry it, I have to. And he was telling her, I'm here to help you take care of the baby, we'll get married, all that. But no, she wasn't having it. So I mean, I guess he really didn't have any say so in what happened.
right. Yeah. Now let's talk about what I was gonna bring up about self abortions. It's like,
Mhm.
hey, if they outlaw abortions, now you're gonna have girls going to other countries or try doing it themselves, uh, things of that nature, because they don't want their parents to get mad. Let me see if I could bring in Rudy. Okay, yeah, here he is. Think I got him now. What's up, root beer?
Yo, Cholo.
What's going on,
Hey.
big dog?
How's it
What's
going?
what's your thoughts on this, man?
I just wanted to share how, like, cause I remember people talking about this, and especially cause like I'm like 10 years younger than you guys,
Mhm.
and like so it's like interesting, cause like with that, I seem like with my generation, there's a lot more single dads out there, and I always, when people are talking about this, and when I think it has to do with, like you hit it earlier, with just, hey, just go out and get laid just to get laid.
Mhm.
It's about teaching our responsibility of the value of sex. Like
Mhm.
for me, I wasn't really having sex in middle school and all that. I was kind of a later bloomer, but and throughout my generation, and even of the women, like uh hello Jen, she was saying yes, it is used more as a birth control, and I've seen that with women of my generation. I've like known friends, women who had multiple just for birth control, and I believe it's responsibility. To me, it's not more of just pro-abortion or pro-choice. It's the parenting, it's the value of life and the family, especially because it's more on a woman. So if you have a daughter, you have to teach your daughter, especially the value of her just loosely having sex with anybody, and that I think the person that I know that had a multiple, and she's probably like 30 years old and had a multiple of them in her 20s, like I would believe that's gonna affect you in the future. How could it not, as a person, like, to just think back about, especially as a woman, like, man, I just was using it just because our generation grew up with, you know, differently with Kim Kardashians, little Kims, and
Mm.
that was the value that my women of generation is different, because like I was saying, there's a lot more single dads I know amongst my generation, and
Mhm.
it's the responsibility of, sex has a value, and it's not just, it ain't fun if the homies can't have none, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
point.
yeah, man. I completely agree. I mean, I was all over that, man. I was all over that where it's just like smash and dash. I mean, it was just all about a good time. That's the way it was really looked at. It was and if you only had sex with one girl, like you're a lame, homie. You're a lop. You ain't nobody, man. You needed to, get out there, man, and really start, smashing and dashing, man. And the more you can do, the better it was. But a reputation that you get. But I mean, it leads into all these problems. And I think the way people look at abortion today, it's all birth from that. It's all birth from, hey, we're looking at sex like it's just, just go out there and get laid. Oh, you're frustrated, go out there and get laid, just find anybody. And it's crazy because now you got a lot of single households where this person was good enough for you to have a kid with, but not good enough for you guys to stick together. So, you have kids with somebody where it's like, hey, that person's gonna be your mom, that person's gonna be your dad, but they ain't good enough to be my wife, they ain't good enough to be my husband. But they're good enough to be your parent, right? So it's definitely something that needs to be reconstructed, man. And it just starts not as a society pushing it, but just you yourself in your home. But Jen, what about a woman that doesn't want to be a parent? She just doesn't want to be a parent. It's like, hey, I don't want to have kids. I mean, doesn't mean she's gonna be a great mom. I mean, what about that? I mean, there are, look, I know some hyenas, man, that are straight scumbag moms, and I'm like, hey, girl,
Yes.
damn, you really shouldn't have kids. You really shouldn't. But what about that?
I know several just like that as well. And you know what? I respect you way more if you're willing to say that up front and be like, hey, I don't want no kids. And do what you have to do to make sure that doesn't happen. I have one friend in particular. She had one child. She did her very, and she did good raising her, but she made sure she had no more kids. I mean, she got married to a different guy after he wanted kids, and she was like, no, I am not meant to be a mother. I don't want kids. And they gave her a real hard time about tying her tubes because she only had one child. She wasn't old enough. She went through a lot to try and make sure she could not have any more children, but she finally did. And I mean, to me, being a mom is just something that comes naturally to me, but not everybody's like that. And you should know your limitations. If it's not for you, then you need to make sure that you're preventing that from happening. Um, because yeah, a lot of people out here shouldn't be having kids.
Coming hearing arguments from the ones that call themselves shoot, what is it, pro-life, right? The
Mhm.
ones that want to stop abortions, and it's pro-life, and they say um adoption, not abortion. Okay, you are under the impression that there's a lot of people out there, or enough people out there, looking to adopt. That's not the case. While there are people out there looking to adopt kids, probably not gonna fill that void when if abortions are completely stopped, and everybody that wants to have an abortion puts that child up, that baby up for adoption. You're gonna have a lot of kids, a lot of babies that are not gonna find homes. You're under an impression that there's
Mhm.
so many couples, that there's so many people that want to adopt kids. Shoot, I wouldn't adopt any. My goodness, man, if my wife told me she was pregnant, I would hang myself. I would
Don't say that.
completely freaking I would hang myself from the ceiling fan, and I'll leave it on going slow motion. So when they
Oh
find
my
me, I'm slowly going around, son of a gun, man. But yeah. So for those that are like, hey, adoption, not abortion. Yeah, there's not enough people out there looking to adopt.
God.
So, and if you got women that don't want to have a baby, but they go and get pregnant, they can definitely put it up, for adoption. They can put, foster homes and all these things. But it does kind of suck because now, this child is born,
Mhm.
and it's really not, unless it gets adopted by a really good family, and that's a whole nother issue. That's a whole nother issue on adoption and who adopts kids. But um, it does kind of suck that now you got this human being that now is going to go through the system, um, not knowing what it's like to have, mom and dad and caring there, and having that motherly love and everything. Yeah, you know what? Maybe a good family does adopt them, maybe not. Usually doesn't happen. There's not enough parents out there that want to go ahead and adopt kids, but they're going to be raised by the system, and that's a little bit of a failure there. So that's why I'm saying, well, what about to the women, the 15, 16 year olds, even older? I'm just throwing those numbers out there, as where it's like, no, you know what, I made a mistake, I don't want to throw my life away, I have a lot of big plans and everything, so I'm just gonna give the baby up, for adoption. I'm gonna take the baby to a fire station and just give it, no questions asked. Walked away. I lived my life, reached my dreams, my goals. But now this baby just kind of goes through the system,
Hmm.
So, what's your thoughts on that, Rudy?
Yeah, I mean, uh, I don't. I mean, I just it's, to me, it's just responsibility, man, of really just teaching our kids. Because other than that, it's like, do you agree or not agree? But we could go teach these kids just what is the true value of sex,
Hmm.
Mm,
like that's what no one's talking about. Why isn't everybody saying, why aren't we talking to the kids truly more about sex instead of saying, do you agree with abortion? Besides the negativity of like if
Hmm.
something happens for medical reasons, but
mm,
if the if we would focus on teaching responsible sex more in to your kids in school and to young men and women of what abortion is. You're creating something, and yes, it may have to happen one time, but like she was saying, I know it too. Amongst my generation, the younger women use it more as birth control, and
Hmm.
that's where a lot of these young girls that I know, they don't have fathers, and they grew up like I did, a 90s kid, early 2000s, and it was, we could relate to the 80s kids, and it has to do with teaching a better system of responsibility of sex. That's what I think
Hmm.
these politicians or whoever should be. That's what we should be talking about: teaching responsible sex. Not if do you agree pro-choice or pro-life, is teaching responsibility and the value of sex to our kids. Because so a 16 or 15 years old don't have to make that. They say, why is this 16 or 15 years old making a decision on if she's going to have an abortion if her father and mother would have taught her the responsibility and value and love of being in a relationship.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
important. That's important. I think just piggybacking off of what you just said, I have four daughters. My older daughters, I mean, I have sons too, but my older daughters, I do talk to them. And I would hope, other people speak to their daughters and sons as openly. And I let my daughters know, like, your body, your physical body, your time, everything about you, is something you should hold precious to yourself. You don't just go out there giving it away. Like, have value in yourself and realize that it's not just an easy exchange to go out, and there's always things that are going to be attached to doing that. Could be pregnancy, could be disease, could be, you know you don't want to just give yourself away so freely. I mean, that's what I talk to my daughters about anyways. So I would rather them be proud of themselves when they walk in a room, and know like they weren't with all these guys in the room. And I feel like that's important, but that's just me.
Just to touch on that, I don't like the whole thing of, like, everybody has their beliefs, right? You believe in God or not believe in God or anything like that, but hey, that's being the reason why I don't want anybody to have an abortion because I believe in God. Well, we live in the good old US of A, man. You have the right to believe, not believe, believe whatever it is that you want or not want, right? So I don't like, when people want to make the decision on others and say, no, you know what? I don't want there to be abortions. I'm gonna, I'm in power, and I'm gonna choose for everybody not to have an abortion because I believe in God. It's like, well, hold on a second, man. While me myself personally, I am a believer in God. We live in a country where it's like, hey, don't push your beliefs on somebody else. Okay, if you don't want it to be legal, okay, don't come with your religious beliefs. That is your religious beliefs. You teach that to your family. You teach that to your kids, and you walk accordingly to be an example for others. But you don't go and push that and say, no, nobody have an abortion because I believe in God. Nah, Charlie, that's not how it rocks and rolls here, man. Everybody can believe or not believe whatever it is that they want to or not want to. Um, it definitely, I think the root of the problem is exactly what we're touching on: is how society looks at sex. Um, all that being said, where do I stand with abortions? It's a medical procedure. The my body, my choice. It doesn't fly. It's my body, my choice is right here, right now. I can't say, hey, remove my foot because I don't want my foot. It's that it doesn't work like that. These are medical procedures. They're not. I get when people make that argument, man, where it's like, hey, it's a woman. They have women decide. Well, look, there's women that are against abortions, that they're not for it. Should this medical procedure be allowed or not? That is the argument, not pro life or a woman's right to choose. That is a completely ridiculous way to look at it. Abortion, this medical procedure, should it be allowed or not? For myself, uh, personally, I don't like that it's being used as a form of birth control. I think, we definitely need to relook at everything that goes on with sex and how sex is pushed. Myself growing up, yeah, man, parents would give kids condoms and say, hey, have safe sex. But just if parents really start educating their kids a little bit more and start living their lives a little bit different, um, because your kids do watch you. And if they see you, you know, being with this person, being with that person, I'm not talking about physically seeing you having sex with the person. I'm just saying they're just seeing you with a different person every so often. They're going to pick that up, man. So, think about that. Now, medical issues, which we touched on already, having an abortion for medical issues, yeah, definitely. For those that were raped, yes, definitely. However, I would just believe that those that are pro abortion, that want abortion, I don't think it would be enough, right? Because they do use that argument where it's like, hey, what about if the woman was raped? What about if the girl was raped? What about for medical reasons? Okay, well, would it be enough if they legalize it just for those reasons, just for the reasons of a woman being raped, or legalized just for the fact that there's a medical reason? I don't think so. I truly believe that both sides just kind of fight each other just to stick it to one another. But
Yeah.
that sucks, man. It does. It sucks. But Rudy, any last thoughts, big dog?
I think that like there shouldn't be like a clinic, like it's like a. I think it should be just a doctor thing. If you need to do it, like we're saying, if someone needs to do it, then your doctor should do it instead of it just being a birth control center, just where young women could just go in and out multiple times.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Should there be a limit on how many abortions somebody can have?
I know that I feel like, okay, I don't know what the limit should be. Maybe a medical professional could tell someone that, but I do know that a doctor has told a friend of mine before, you are ruining your body. Like, going forward, you're not going to be able to have children when you want to, because the more you have, I mean, basically what that procedure is doing is scraping the lining of a woman's uterus. So the more you have, the more damage you're doing to your reproductive organs.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Rudy, any last words, man, before we get out of here, big dog?
Nope. I appreciate you letting me share my thoughts. Nice meeting you.
Good to
And
meet
I'll see
you.
you next time, next week then.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Take care of yourself, big dog. You guys go check him out on Chicano Ideas, man. He really puts out Chicano history out there. Really love his channel. Jen,
What's up?
sister, any last thoughts on abortion before we wrap it up?
Last thoughts, I would just say, and I want to, make sure I'm not speaking from experience myself, but having the friends that I have in my life that I love dearly, um, what they've been through, by having some of the things they've been through, having the abortions they've had. It's not just a procedure well, it is a medical procedure. Let's make that clear, but it's not something you go in, have done, come home and forget about. There are long lasting effects, a lot of mental health issues that these women have told me they deal with and suffer with continually, and the guilt that they deal with. So please just educate yourself and understand that it's not something that you might think you're going in, having it done, it'll be over with. There's a long lasting effect that most women that I have spoken with say that they have to deal with, and they might have rethought things had they known.
Well said. I would say this um, to all the ladies: manipulation is a very strong weapon. Very strong weapon. If you're gonna get an abortion, hey, have at it. Okay, that's your choice, right? As people were saying, my body, my choice. That's how I felt with the COVID shot, which is I didn't get a COVID shot. My body, my choice. But hey, that is your choice. Okay. However, be very careful uh, by being manipulated by other women or guys that just kind of lean a certain way, that are trying to put this out there and put this in your head. Look, and just build this society. Look, when I was young, I just kind of went with what was there, and the manipulation was hard. And that's why sleeping around was a really cool thing to do. Um, was it fun? Yeah, I mean, at the time, yeah, it was fun. Looking back at it, I could see the damage that it really did to me mentally and to so many others. Ladies, I'm not telling anybody to be ashamed of having an abortion or anything like that. First of all, um, think about how you look at sex, okay? And the ones that are saying like, "Hey, you know what? They're super duper for abortion," and doing music videos and being proud of having an abortion, and just know that a lot of that is out of anger, just trying to stick it to other people. And I'm not sticking up for the other people either. That's, hey man, both of them, they're two angry sides just clashing with each other. Don't get caught up with that. If you're gonna do it, hey, okay, fine, go ahead and do it. I more lean on the side that, hey, if we're gonna have this legal, let's have it legal for rape victims and or medical issues. At the same time, if it is legal, okay, fine, it's legal. But ladies, don't get caught up. Don't get caught up in that river of like, yeah, heck yeah, I'm super duper proud of having an abortion. And who are you to tell me not to have an abortion? Don't get caught up in all that madness. Okay. You're having an abortion because you made a bad choice. Remember that. Don't get caught up in that river that flows with all the angry ladies and even dudes. I see dudes in that too. They are trying to make it cool and trying to make it women empowerment for you to have an abortion. Don't get caught up in that river. You made a bad choice, which is why you're having an abortion. Learn from that. Have your abortion if that's your choice, but learn from it so it doesn't happen again. Hey, man, gracias to everybody who tapped in tonight. Uh, Thank you for being here. Obviously, my sister, one Miss Jen Magana on Convicted Hearts. Where can they find you at, girl?
Convicted Hearts, Jen Magana. They can check me out there on YouTube and on Instagram. And I did put a new interview out today if you guys want to go check it out.
Yeah, man. So you guys go ahead and check out my sister, Jen Magana, and I will have her back on to touch more on some touchy subjects. So it's always fun having a good conversation with you, sister. So looking forward to our next conversation.
Me too. Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
As always, familia, live your life like you're on the road. Be aware of your surroundings and always keep a safe distance. Blood makes you related, but loyalty makes you family. Till next time, this is Ed the Thecholotrucker. Over and out.